If there's somebody that wants to share any information, they can send it to me at jgoshfoundation@aol.com.
Okay.
That's an email for the foundation,
okay.
and I answer all emails. And it's surprising, even after this many years, there are people that do still have information and are beginning to share it. I think sometimes fear has prevented them from doing it earlier.
Sure. Now let me get back to this meeting, because that's pretty historic. It's something that, frankly, very few parents of kidnapped children will ever get. So here comes
also
John.
the photographs that surfaced.
Right.
The FBI said that had never happened on a kidnapping case.
So here comes Johnny, and when he was at the door, you had to be just absolutely shocked. So in he comes, he tells you the story, he names the names, which we're not going to ask you to name, as we talked about before, but what does he tell you happened to him?
Well, he told me that he was taken for the purpose of being used as a prostitute. He was photographed. The sex industry is what they use these kids for, and men profited off of it.
So it was
human trafficking.
Okay, so it was
back
male
before
to
they
male.
gave it a name.
Okay, male to male prostitution.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
and the reports that I've received is that because there was so much publicity on Johnny, because I would not let it go, it created almost a life insurance policy for him, in the sense that they kept him alive because he was valuable, because he was the media kid.
Were they killing others?
There are some that died, and there were some that, bodies were found. Okay. There was a body of a young boy that washed up in Mexico. He was actually killed in Arizona. And when they found him, his identification on his body said Johnny Gosch.
But it wasn't Johnny.
And it wasn't Johnny, no. But somebody planted that ID on him, and the body was fairly decomposed by the time it was pulled out of the water.
How did you know for sure it wasn't?
What was that?
How did you know for sure that it wasn't Johnny?
Dental records.
Okay. So basically...
We sent dental records and got the full report.
Okay.
But somebody had planted ID on him, on that body, wanting us to think that it was Johnny. And that was at a time when there was a lot of publicity on the case. His picture was floating all over. I was on many, many television shows, and there were sabotage attempts to try and shut this down, many of them. And it didn't work. I mean, the case continued. I continued. Did you maybe the day will come that he'll be able to walk as a free man in his own name. For now, he's probably with a different identity. And I just want him to know that I tried.
Oh, I
tried to find him.
I don't doubt for a minute
and
he knows that.
I've done everything I can to bring resolution, and it's not over yet.
Were you...
There's always hope.
Were there other children in the family?
I don't discuss my other children.
Okay, but they do exist
in any public forum because
of course
obvious reasons.
But I mean, they do exist. Okay. Are you still married to Johnny's father?
No.
Okay. Now, did all of your activism on this, was that what took a toll?
No,
okay.
It wasn't.
Unrelated.
He could not cope with the loss, and he began drinking heavily and became a real detriment to himself and to others.
Is he still alive?
And became physically abusive. It wasn't the activism. He just couldn't cope with loss.
Oh, my God. Is he still alive?
He is. I don't know where he lives,
okay.
but he is still alive, yeah.
What I'm getting at here is when Johnny showed up, were you already divorced at that time?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And,
for years.
And,
for a few years already.
Did your husband weigh in on this at all?
What do you mean weigh in?
In other words, did he ever claim he had any visits, or did he ever claim that he believed you had a visit, or, I mean, that kind of a thing is just such a powerful thing. I was wondering what his take was.
I have not seen him since we left the courthouse.
Okay. So
and he moved out of Des Moines some time ago.
Okay.
And his own family doesn't even know where he's at.
All right.
They came to where I work and wanted to know where he was, and I said, well, I don't know. And they said none of them had heard from him in years and years.
Yeah.
So he has just kind of left.
Right. It was
for whatever reason.
Well, and I can understand that. That would that would
Yeah.
certainly do it.
He wasn't willing to ask questions of the police, and I knew something was deadly wrong. And the fact that they had a title and a badge didn't bother me at all. It was my son, and I had the right to know.
Sure.
And I didn't let them push me around. And he was under the feeling that he had to always do what they said. And when they said, don't hire a private investigator, he was against it.
All right, so you were...
Excuse...
Right, from day one, you were not only fighting the system, you were fighting him as well. So that made it even...
Well, yeah, because he felt we should do everything the police said, and what they said was stay at home, don't talk to anybody, and just wait. Well, you can't wait on a case like this.
No.
And what they wanted us to do was just shut down. They weren't doing anything, so then nobody would be looking. And I recognized that right from the beginning. And I made a joke with the police chief one day. I said, all my police training came from watching Cagney and Lacey. And I said, I still think I can do a better job than you.
Yeah. Now,
and I said it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but he didn't think it was funny.
No, I'm sure, clearly. A lot was riding on it for him in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
But the other
But
thing,
he had a lot to hide,
right,
too.
that's what I mean.
And that was what was motivating his actions.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that I thought was interesting is that this isn't just you against the world with no corroboration whatsoever. There are some well-known detectives, and I think even active detectives on various police forces who believe everything you say, and they too have been stonewalled in cases trying to find out what's going on. That's
correct. There was one, we have a new police chief a few years ago. He came here, and one of his own detectives contacted me off duty and told me that the first thing the new police chief did was call a meeting of all the detectives, and they were told that they were not allowed to help Noreen Gosch resolve this kidnapping case. That he didn't care whether I ran out of resources, moved out of town, or died, and he didn't care which came first. He did not want this case going any farther. And one of his own men contacted me and told me that.
That's beyond chilling.
It is. So what are they hiding? What is it that they don't want people to know?
Now, wasn't there somebody in New York, a detective in New York, who was looking at trafficking, who came across this case independently?
Yes. James Rothstein, and he was a police detective for the New York Police Force, and he was investigating human trafficking. And Johnny's case fit the criteria, so he called the West Des Moines Police Department to visit with them about what measures they had taken to try and find Johnny. And he gave me the name of the man he talked to, and it was one of the higher-ups officers. Mm-hmm. Not just a patrol cop, it was a captain type position. And the captain told him that they really didn't do much. They did a composite drawing only because they felt they had to show the public they were doing something, but that the police chief received a phone call the morning of the kidnapping instructing them to stand down and take no action.
Which is a huge...
So the big question is, who made that phone call to the police chief?
Yes.
And who has that kind of power to stop an investigation of a kidnapped little boy?
Right. Now,
so with knowing that, after James Rothstein made contact with me, that puts a whole different spin on everything.
Yeah.
There was corruption from day one on this case, and I will never back down from saying that because that's exactly what happened and that's what unfolded.